Beyoncé is like one of those incredible artists. It's all about the words she's saying.
Your body laid out on these filthy floors.
The story she's telling, the picture she's painting.
Custom couture.
So as a mixer, it's very important to never get in the way of the artist's vision and the story. I'm Stuart White here with Audio Punks. I thought it might be cool to just kind of play some songs off Tidal and tell a couple of anecdotes and stories about the process of mixing them. I mixed Cowboy Carter this year. We were fortunate enough to win Album of the Year. In the case of a song that I really love on this album, it's called Alligator Tears. There's no effects on the vocal and just kept it super, super, super bone dry. A lot of times when we do a dry vocal, or I do a dry vocal when I'm mixing, I'll have a little bit of reverb on it, but I don't know if you really hear it, but like a short reverb or a little bit of delay, and it still feels dry, but it gives a little bit of dimension. But this is a case where it's like 100% dry, and it came out really cool. And her vocal performance is just phenomenal. In contrast to some of the other songs on the album, like for instance, like Daughter has a lot of reverbs and a lot of delays and a lot more effects and stuff. And being able to marry those on an album, where you have those different vibes. And Beyoncé is like one of those incredible artists where she can pull off doing that. She can have a different vocal sound on a bunch of different songs and make it work, and that's really fun to work on projects like that.
High tides in the city, I'm in too deep, and I'm running on fear. Oh dear, you and your alligator tears wax me over and through.
So when I listen to that, it gives me goosebumps every time, first of all, but she's singing softer and I'm using more compression in that case to push the vocal out and just make it pop. And the harmonies as well. In some cases, we'll group the harmonies and compress them as a group. In some cases, I'll compress them individually to where one vocal doesn't push down another vocal, so on and so forth. There's no compression on the stereo bus. Those vocals, at the end, especially any sort of compression on the stereo bus, was just changing the balance. Once we get that balance just right, it's super important not to mess that up and not change that feel. So I did it with individual 1176 style compression to make all those vocals kind of pop and sit where they need to sit, naturally. And then to contrast that with a song that we did a while ago, it's called Daughter. It starts off with a dry lead in your face, soft.
Your body laid out on these filthy floors. Your blood stains on my custom couture. Bathroom attendant let me right in. She was a big fan. I really tried to stay cool, but your arrogance disturbed my solitude. Now I ripped your dress and you're all black and blue. Look what you made me do.
Very intimate, very personal, and it's all about the words she's saying and the story she's telling, the picture she's painting. So as a mixer, it's very important to never get in the way of the artist's vision and the story. And in that case, it was obvious to mix it very dry in that moment, and that's how we did it. And then as the song develops, it changes a bit. That has a lot of reverb on it. It's completely a contrast to the way the vocal started out. Clearly that, as the song develops and opens up, the effects have to change and those effects have to be controlled. And the vocal processing would be on the louder bits, less compression, more leveling. The effects would be compressed, maybe, you know, to control them. So, anytime I do heavy reverbs, I tend to like to compress the reverb so the reverbs don't jump in front of the vocal. I always love that transition, and I remember working hard on the mix in that transition because her next line is dry, and again, you know, she's riffing, and then it goes back to lyric, and then we're finishing the story now. So that has to be super intelligible and, to help tell the story. So really, it was a lot of rides and a lot, you know, and messing with the compression to make that first beginning syllable to pop over top of the stuff that's carrying over, and then as the ethereal vocals kind of like trail off, I adjust all the EQ and compression for the next bit. You know, it's all feel and it, you know, and it's all how you tell the story. You know, switching gears, I thought it'd be cool. I mixed the majority of this album Lemonade back in 2016. There's a song in there that I really love that I mixed called Don't Hurt Yourself featuring Jack White. It's a cool example of like great genre bending, you know, bringing two worlds together. It was a track that Jack had, and then, you know, she got on and did her thing and transformed it into what it is. I had the pleasure and was fortunate enough to get to mix it. I thought it'd be cool to talk about like the distortion from a technical point of view. Just approaching vocals, as I was talking about earlier, like, you know, sometimes you want ethereal, sometimes you want dry and intimate, sometimes you want distorted and whatever. And I've talked about this in other videos online, maybe not about this song particularly, but like just in general. When I do distortion on vocals, if I can, I like using like kind of like SM58s or SM7 type mics. It'd be really cool to try to do this with some of the new Audio Punks ones actually, because they distort really well. What I'll do is I'll compress the vocal pretty hard first, in this case for this song, just to even it out and give it a certain type of vibe and grit already, but to control the peaks and then apply distortion after. And the reason I do that is so that it saturates evenly, because as we know, distortion is level dependent. As something gets louder, it'll get more distorted or less distorted. And I want to have the right amount of distortion across everything to keep it consistent.
Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Who the fuck do you think I am? You ain't married to no average bitch, boy. You can watch my fat ass twist, boy, as I run to the next dick, boy.
Very even, it's very creamy, it doesn't hurt, you can turn it up loud, it doesn't bite your ear too much. That's the idea, you know. You never want to do this distortion on a vocal thing and have it to where you turn your mix up loud and it's like, it makes you want to turn it down. And it just in general, the way I want to mix, I want people to be able to blast anything I do as loud as possible and the biggest speakers possible, and it not hurt, you know, be painful, but still have clarity, loud or soft. From a mixing standpoint, a blurring genre, low end is a thing that is synonymous with hip hop, more so than other genres, or the way the low end is approached. And writing that line is always like the thing that I try to do when I'm doing something that has hip hop undertones, rock undertones, R&B undertones, is approaching those from a frequency standpoint as well. So in the case of this, you know, I'm adding low end subby 50 hertz harmonics to the kick and making it way beefier than it was when I first got it. These drums were recorded really well by Jack, you know, I believe on 8-track analog tape. It sounded amazing when we got it, but to bring it more into our world, shaping the bottom end. From a genre blurring standpoint, you know, it's not just the parts, but it's also how the frequency of the parts, you know, and how they hit, how they move the air and the speakers. Another cool thing about this mix that I really love is the dynamics. The sections actually get louder, and that's something that I love to do. If it works for a song, when sections happen, it actually gets louder. and it feels like it opened up and it's exciting. I feel like a lot of people are afraid to do that. They're trying to have the beginning of the song be as loud as possible because it's being played after the next song on Spotify or whatever. They want to be as loud as the ending of another song. And I feel that can, kind of rob dynamics from your mix in a way. I understand why people do it. I've done it, a lot. I've had to do it. There's definitely it's something to be said for, something evolving and growing and not starting too low, but, starting at a right amount where it like evolves and gets louder by the end, but not where you ever want to turn the volume down. That's the last thing you want.
If you try this shit again,